The first session at the Constitutional Court. We're going to give you more now from our reporter Aldrin Sampear. He's been covering the case for us. Aldrin, good afternoon to you. This is really about setting a precedent. It's important for the Constitution, which is exactly what's being argued in the ConCourt today, isn't it, Aldrin?
Yeah, definitely. Remember that when the EFF arrived here at the Constitutional Court, one of the assertions that they had in the heads of argument is that both the President as well as the National Assembly were in defiance of the Public Protector and were defying the Public Protector as well as the Constitution. And that's the argument that's the argument that they had when they arrived here. But under cross-questioning and quizzing from Chief Justice Mr. Trengove, who represents the DA, then backed down and said that probably it's not defiance, because the argument from Justice Mogoeng was that it can only be defiance if the National Assembly as well as the President knew for sure that what they were doing was not in accordance with the law. Could it then have been maybe it was a case of error in judgment or error in law? And the EFF's representatives, Mr. Trengove, then conceded that that could probably be the case. But the DA then went to make a submission that they are standing by it, that it was defiance, and as Katz puts it, he says it's defiance of the worst kind. And he also went back around the history of this court case, around the history of the Nkandla matter. And remember the tensions when the Public Protector was investigating the case, saying that there was some sort of interference and ministers trying to stop her from continuing with the investigation. So his argument is that that is clear indication that there was defiance and not to participate or to uphold the Constitution and make sure that the remedial action of the Public Protector is implemented.
And also called into question there, Aldrin, the role of the National Assembly in this, as well as the ad hoc committee on Nkandla. Unpack this for us a bit. What was said around that?
Well, the argument around the National Assembly is that the National Assembly is the only institution that can hold the President accountable. While the President can hold the executive accountable, who holds him accountable? And that's, of course, the National Assembly. The argument from both the lawyers, or from both the senior counsels, was that what should have happened is that after the remedial action, the National Assembly should have ensured that they hold the President to account, considering that he had taken an oath of office to uphold, to observe, and to comply with the Constitution of the country, and they failed to do that. The argument from the DA, for instance, is that the National Assembly went out of its way to protect the executive and to protect the President of the country.
And for the DA advocate, Anton Katz, seeming to have a tough time in explaining the party's administrative stance. There was a bit of toing and throwing between him and one of the Chief Justices. What happened?
Well, the thing with what the DA is arguing is with regards to the administrative powers of the Public Protector. Remember that they are arguing that the powers of the Public Protector are not binding, and they base this based on the Supreme Court of Appeals case with regards to the SABC as well as the SABC COO Hlaudi Motsoeneng. Remember, in that judgment, the Supreme Court of Appeal indicated that you cannot ignore the recommendations of the Public Protector, or rather the remedial action set out by the Public Protector. And that's the case that they need to look in. For instance, earlier on as well, the argument was around, let's say, for instance, the Public Protector makes recommendations or remedial action and says that a certain institution should do something which happens to be unlawful. What happens in that case? Well, the argument there was that there are mechanisms that are put in place, and the only way to challenge the Public Protector's findings is to take that under review and you go to a high court.
Aldrin, after this short break, what's expected to happen next, and how much longer will it go on for today?
Well, the Chief Justice indicating earlier on that they're willing to go all the way to up to 7 p.m. this evening to hear all the arguments from the 7 advocates or the 7 senior counsels who are expected to make arguments here today. We expect Corruption Watch to be giving their heads of arguments, as well as the Public Protector. That is before those representing the President, as well as the National Assembly and the Police Ministry will be taking over.
All right, Aldrin, thank you very much for that update. We will get more from you at a later stage. Aldrin.